John Scott, Jonathan Acosta here in Pittsburgh after the Bills defeating the Steelers in their second preseason game, 9-3, a barn burner, let me tell you here. Points aplenty, not. But I will say, and I'd like to start off here, defensively, a much different performance that we saw from the Bills than we did a week ago against the Chicago Bears, and that's really the thing that I'm going to grab onto most coming out of this one.
Yeah, it's something that Greg Rousseau and Dorian Williams both talked about in the locker room afterwards, that this was more to sort of that standard that Sean McDermott had alluded to after that Bears game, that yes, it's the preseason, but there's a certain standard that this team needs to play to, and it's something that the team talked about all week in practice, playing to that standard. Well, that's something that at least defensively they were able to accomplish here on the field in Pittsburgh.
I will also just add a little disclaimer. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is nowhere near as good as what the Chicago Bears potentially can be, and that starts at the quarterback position. They sometimes say if you have multiple quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. That's maybe the situation that the Steelers are in. Russell Wilson did not look great. Justin Fields didn't look great.
Although he got a bigger ovation when he came in the game after Russell Wilson than Russell Wilson got when he started.
But I don't want to take anything away from the Bills, because at the same time, they did what they were supposed to do against an offense that, in my opinion, lacks talent, especially at the quarterback position. And let's start with the guy who I think we were very surprised to see in the starting lineup, the starters, both sides of the ball, for the most part getting run almost the majority of the first half here. Terrell Bernard not getting the start there. Sean McDermott said afterwards, and this is kind of what I thought, after the Matt Milano torn bicep injury news earlier in the week, understanding where that group is as a whole, they took the cautious approach with the most important player probably on their entire defense, and that's Terrell Bernard.
Yes.
Joe Andreessen getting the start, the UB product, the Lancaster kid, and he was awesome.
Yeah, he was flying around the field. I thought he was really good, kind of going sideline to sideline. He attacked the football. He was always around the football. Something that I remembered kind of watching this game was last year when I went to a UB game, and defensive back Devin Grant had, I think, 2 or 3 interceptions in the game. And head coach Mo Linguist after the game said, if you want to see a good defensive player, you're always going to find him around the football. Well, Joe Andreessen at UB last year playing for Mo Linguist, and that's something that stuck out to me in this game. He was just always around the football when he was on the field, being able to diagnose plays, calling defensive plays for a majority of the game, and he didn't look out of place, which for someone who was a undrafted rookie, it's not like they signed him to a contract where he was automatically going to training camp. He had to do the rookie tryout, get invited to training camp. And so for him to have this sort of performance and, again, not look out of place, I think says a lot about the mental makeup, about how much he's learning this defense and how confident he feels in this defense. And the coaches trust in him to not put an Eddie Ulofoshio ahead of him, not put a Deion Jones ahead of him. But, hey, alongside Dorian Williams, who we know is probably going to start now, we're putting Joe Andreessen out there and see what he can do for us.
It was really cool to hear from Andreessen after the game. I know you were in the locker room. I heard it afterwards. And him saying he actually was really calm. He was nervous a little initially once he heard the news he was starting a couple days ago, but he was calm. And I think that his play completely reflected that he truly did feel, hey, I have nothing to lose. The coaches are instilling this opportunity, which shows that they have faith and they believe in me. And he totally snatched it. And I think, Jonathan, the next part of this is, does this kid actually have a shot to make the 53-man roster? And I'm looking at where they are with health and where they are with depth. And I think it's a legitimate case, not just because of one game, but this was a good litmus test for the coaching staff to say, all right, he's a young, undrafted kid, but we can trust him. We can put him in, and he could be a contributor on this team if necessary. It's one game, but without Matt Milano, Balin Spector's on the shelf. You get past Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, and you're kind of like, well, who is next? I do think Joe Andreessen, especially after a performance this strong, if he finishes the preseason strong, I think he has as good of a shot as anyone to round out the linebacker group on the 53.
I think there's an element of this that is almost a carryover from what we were talking about with Dorian Williams earlier in the week. I know Taron Johnson said this, where when there's these sort of situations and these sort of pressure with someone stepping into a larger role, that's where stars are made, right? And we were talking about it with Dorian Williams, the opportunity in front of him with Matt Milano going down. But I think maybe many of us didn't realize the trickle-down effect and maybe some opportunities for people behind Dorian Williams. Well, Joe Andreessen came out and made the most of this opportunity, and that's how guys in the NFL make rosters when you don't really project them to make the NFL roster. They go, they get their opportunities, they make the most of them, they earn more opportunities, and they make the most of those opportunities. It's something that Joe Andreessen talked about in the locker room, just having this chance and seizing it and playing the way that he did here today. I was very impressed with him. I think it's an incredible story. Obviously, he has the nickname of the Lancaster legend. We saw him here with friends and family. He had a nice moment with them after the game, being able to hug and take a picture with them. So I think he's a guy that's seizing the moment, kind of embracing this journey and this moment that he's living that's almost like a childhood dream you would have to imagine for him. And he's playing with the confidence of a guy that thinks he has a legitimate shot to make this roster.
And let's not downplay how impressive it is that he could call the defense. I mean, that's something that even Terrell Bernard, when he first started doing it last year, it's complex. And even though you're not doing the full game planning and schemes that you'll see in the regular season, I think for a kid, as you said, was a rookie tryout to just try to keep his head above water, to be able to have command of the defense that strongly enough at this point in the preseason, I think is incredibly impressive.
And one more note, he had the 12 tackles, and it's not like they all came again in the second half against the Steelers, guys that are not going to make their roster. From the very get-go, from the second drive of the game, he was out there flying to the ball, making plays alongside Dorian Williams and Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver. So it's something that I think you can actually take stock in, and not something that maybe is from the first preseason game where you're like, he wasn't really going against anyone. He was going against legit NFL guys in this game.
You mentioned Greg Rousseau. He was a beast.
Yeah.
He was a beast. 2.5 sacks in this one. And I saw a clip. Broderick Jones, God bless that man, 300-plus pounds, and Greg Rousseau shoved him 3-4 yards back en route to one of his sacks. This is, I think, maybe one of, I'm going to say defensively, Greg Rousseau is the biggest X factor for the Bills defense. I'm concerned about the pass rush, and Von Miller's not going to be Von Miller, and that's why they brought in Von Miller. You need a dynamic game changer at the edge position. I don't know if they have one, but if Greg Rousseau can ascend to that, boy, does that change the complete dynamic of the front and the defense overall.
I think about the leap that Ed Oliver made last year and finally playing at what was close to an all-pro level. Not saying Greg Rousseau is going to get to that, but you just see him, and he has the athletic makeup that you tell yourself, if he puts everything together, he can be a Pro Bowl caliber player. And I think you saw a glimpse of that today. What was it, two sacks, and he had a run stuff that tackle for like a 1-yard gain. He's someone that leapt out right away, and he grabbed your attention. And you said it. We don't know what Von Miller is going to be. AJ Epinesa, I feel like for right now, he's just a consistent, solid guy. Not going to be anything too crazy. Not going to be bad, but I don't think he's going to be great, all-pro, Pro Bowl level either. But Greg Rousseau, if he puts together what he did here and can put that together over the course of a regular season, like you said, he can be someone that changes the makeup of this Bills defense that just lost an X factor in Matt Milano. Can they gain one in Greg Rousseau?
Flip over to the offense. No Josh Allen. Sean McDermott saying, hey, Allen had a really good week of practice, including the joint session here against the Steelers. Also, the weather, rain, amazing we didn't get delayed, but the surface and all of that, he says, I'm not risking it. I'm keeping the franchise quarterback to the side.
Smart
Mitch
decision.
Trubisky coming in and gets the start, and the numbers weren't horrible, but he was doing a lot of checkdowns, holding the ball too long, and I know the Bills have a longer list of like things you should focus on, but I think it's reasonable if you're a fan at home saying, Mitch Trubisky, I'm not confident if that guy has to be called upon during the regular season. Of course, no backup quarterback that Bills will have will be Josh Allen. That's not the point. You need someone serviceable, and from what we've seen from Trubisky, I think it's okay to wonder if that he's the guy.
And it's not a situation where you say, oh, he's been great in camp, he just hasn't put together in the preseason, maybe not. He's been okay in camp. He hasn't flashed anything, though. There haven't been that many great plays. So then now you come out and play against actual teams now in a game-like setting. He didn't light up the world against Chicago. It wasn't a great performance. And then he comes out here, and I think you can say it was a legitimately bad performance. I had a good view here on the sideline, maybe 20, 25 yards down from where he threw it. And the way he was looking, it was right in my line of sight. He was staring. I don't know exactly who he was starting, but the receiver he was locked in on him the entire way, hesitated, kind of double clutched, and still threw it the receiver's way and sailed the throw. I mean, that's just something that can't happen, whether it's regular season, preseason, camp, going against the Bills, going against the Steelers. Those are the throws that you look back and you're like, Mitch, what were you thinking, you know? And so he's a guy that I think needs to find a little bit of confidence here in this week of practice and leading into that final preseason game, because I think he's a guy that needs a good preseason game to have some confidence if called upon in the regular season. Ben DiNucci is the number 3 guy. It's a tough position for him. I mean, he just joined the team this week. You know, you can tell that his knowledge of the playbook is not where you would hope it would be for a backup. But again, he just joined the team this week, so you can't fault him. So Mitch Trubisky is really the guy that they're like, if Josh Allen goes down, he needs to step up. And to your point, you don't really feel confident in his ability to lead the offense if he is called upon.
And we will see maybe how this sorts itself out, because Trubisky leaving the game with a knee injury, no update as of right now of the severity of that. If he can't go, that's where they're absolutely, it's not, we're just looking for a Ben DiNucci placeholder here for snaps. We're legitimately going to have to find one. I know people on Twitter, I think Ryan Tannehill is a name that has been thrown out there. That would be somewhat ironic and an interesting kind of circle of events there. But just something to keep an eye on. Injuries piling up on the offense as well. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a pretty scary thing here. Neck injury. Thankfully, he walked off the field, but then was carted back. I did see him walk off the field into the locker room after the game. Okay. But still, another wide receiver goes down after the Chase Claypool injury, and he's no longer on the team. These things tend to sort themselves out, but now I'm starting to think, I've always been having the number 6 at wide receiver in my head. Watching the guys, seeing how it's sorting out, and then if MVS is on the shelf a little bit, I think maybe the number could be 5, and maybe they keep 4 tight ends, because Quentin Morris has been looking good, and of course Zach Davidson has been the talk of things recently. Right,
and I think we brought up this topic at training camp a couple of weeks ago. Could the Bills go 5 wide receivers and play 4 tight ends with the way that Zach Davidson has looked? I think he had another catch today from Mitch Trubisky. So he's someone, we talked about Andreessen making the most of his opportunities. It really feels like on the offensive side of things, Zach Davidson has made the most of his opportunities as well. Really quickly, I want to say, before I lose this train of thought, Ray Davis just looks explosive when he hits the hole.
You were in my mind. That was the next thing I was going to. He was great.
Nothing wow on the stat sheet, but you just see kind of that burst of speed, and I think that he's a good change of pace with James Cook. One of the offense got better last year as the season went on, but one of the things that stuck with me is they never really had a second guy at running back after James Cook. Ty Johnson was okay. Latavius Murray didn't provide them a whole lot, so I think Ray Davis provides a significant upgrade to that number 2 running back position, and I think his ability both to catch the ball and then specifically what we saw today with the speed he can hit the hole when he's running the ball is something positive as well.
And it's not something that I was aware that he had in his bag when he was drafted by the Bills. He has burst, and that's the perfect word there. He's not a burner, I'm going to run away from all these guys, but it's like you see these little creases or these little holes there, and he can just shoot through it, and he can also beat guys to the edge. So I agree with you. I think he's going to have a much larger role than maybe what you would anticipate for a complimentary back. All right, we will keep you up to date throughout the week with injuries and things like that, because, again, they're starting to really stack up. And I think the Bills, in some way, after the Milano injury, are a bit spooked, and I think
for good reason.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with who plays and for how long of the 3rd preseason game, and we will get all of that in the upcoming week here. So stay tuned.
Javon Solomon was someone else that left actually.
He was, and he was good too. So I mean, like all sorts of guys, and we will see how the ripple effect, practice and moves and things like that as the days go on. But that's it for us from Pittsburgh. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott.